exact codes on that as far as how far they gotta be away from,
It's 500 feet for an open flame.
yeah.
Anything that has a spark or an open flame has to be 500 feet away from the tent.
So I can't put my welding shop next door?
Yes, you can. Makes for a great display.
I suppose we get started. I don't have anybody else that I know of coming, but Billy had tennis, I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to make it. I haven't heard from anybody else. At the last meeting, I had down that fire department was going to visit with the rest of the department and report back to this committee on what an acceptable level of risk would it be from the fire department. I think that's all we had to report out. So Mike, I don't know if you want to report back on
Yeah, I
what
mean,
you learned.
a lot of the members are against having them in town, but then there's also discussion as far as if you don't allow them in town, they go out on township roads and light them. That's not the safest thing either with grass fires and whatever. So, I mean, my feeling is the department would sooner not have it in town, but I can see the other side of it too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were talking, I don't know if I was talking with you earlier about, I can't remember what I was talking to. It does, somebody else this afternoon, does allowing fireworks in the ordinance mean that we're going to have more fireworks being set off? And I don't know the answer to that.
Right.
Well, is it going to change what's happening now or not?
Right.
You know?
And I definitely see Will's side of it as far as having to run after all the complaints, you know.
I think that'll be the biggest obvious change right away if we were to pass something like this, is just him having to, him and his staff having to chase it down. I mean, it just won't.
Probably. I mean, I don't know that you're doing a ton of chasing, but if you come upon it, right? I mean, we do get fireworks calls, but
We have managed to, in the way that we do our patrols, in the way that we've switched things up with the department, it's, if we run across people that we see are doing it, then we will stop and we'll address it. As I was explaining to Nate earlier, there's a lot of times that we don't open calls for service for that because it's just pointless to do. If we wanted to beef our numbers up, we would do that. That's not what we're here for. So we try to keep things on that neighborly level and make sure everybody has a fair opportunity. And there's a handful of people that we will go back and readdress that issue with. 5 minutes after you leave, they're shooting them off again. Those people are usually the ones we open and call for service. So what I say, it's a big part of what we do on the night of the 4th of July. Not as bad as what it has been in the past. I can remember years ago, I was getting calls all night long. And, back then it was before we had technology that we could use our own calls for service. But there was a lot of people that just blatantly would just shoot it off, knowing that the ordinance says you can't. And in a lot of those cases, we weren't citing back then. But more so now, and since this became a topic, I've had plenty of discussions with people from the community, and there's some that are like, they don't care. There's other people like, yeah, that would be great. And then there's people that are like, absolutely not. Right. So it's a mixed bag of tricks, and it's not a one way or the other from the majority of the people that I have personally spoke to in the community. So I mean, I don't see that. I think that what we'll see initially is we'll see a big uptick because they can. But as with any big uptake, it's kind of like, when you're 21, it's great to be able to go into a bar and buy a beer, but it's boring when you're 22. Well, for me it was.
it certainly is by 40.
At 40, you drive by the bar. So yeah, I mean, I think you'll have an uptick that first year just because the excitement's new, it's great, we're going to play with this new toy.
Right.
But I think you'll probably see a downtick years going after that.
There's a lot of just personal, like, opinions, you know, with this too. Like, I have one about, I feel like the people that are careless are probably shooting them off right now anyways.
Mhm.
So will it increase fire calls? I don't know. I do think that if we approve this ordinance to change to allow fireworks to be shot in the city limits, fire department could do some sort of public thing, you know, set up a truck at Sunshine Foods, try to build some awareness on firework safety, that we could be a little bit, be like, well, we tried. And an ordinance can be changed, so if, I mean, this just goes south, then we can change it too, but
Brittany suggested that at that last committee meeting as well, to do
Sure.
a safety demonstration day for families or something along those lines.
yeah. Because you, I mean, I think, Mike, you said too, that's, you know, people, they discard their stuff in the garbage, it sits there a while, and then, you know, 2 hours later, we got a heck of a fire.
Right.
It's not necessarily initially, it's just that kind of stuff that, oh, maybe people need to think about, so.
Yeah, if we could do some education on that side of it, and maybe on our Facebook page and the city's Facebook page. As far as cleaning up afterwards, while they're actually lighting them, I'm not as concerned about that, because somebody's gonna see it and we're gonna be notified right away. But if it's at 2 in the morning and their garbage can's sitting in the garage or next to the garage and then they're all sleeping,
Right.
that's when we're gonna have a problem.
Yep.
But just maybe some education on the cleanup side of it too. And
One of the things we did have in the first draft of this ordinance was that the council has the authority to suspend the discharge by resolution under unusually dry conditions.
Mhm.
I wonder if that shouldn't be amended just a little bit. I mean, I don't know, Harold puts word out if there's a burn ban, those kinds of things, but those aren't the only, like right now, I would prefer not to have them.
right,
It has to rain for a few weeks, you know,
yeah,
and in those cases, you know, it may be one of those things where we depend on the fire chief to issue a recommendation to suspend, and we can take action.
okay.
Well, that's always something we could do as well.
Mhm.
Just to make sure it's more of a consultative process and not just a thing that we have out there if we wanna do it.
And typically, we have a pretty good snapshot going into the 4th of July.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
it's either really wet or it's really dry.
yeah,
And the last council meeting before the 4th of July, we have a really good idea before, you know, if we need to take some extra
I mean, the
measures.
furthest
That being
south
said,
would
it could
be
be super dry and then just rain 3 inches on the 4th of July, like it did last
Yes.
year.
Yes, that is true. This is South Dakota. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
Some of the other city ordinances, I don't think I don't know if this matters too, but we have 12 AM on here. I think some of them were earlier, weren't they? That we looked at? I thought I saw 11, but I could be wrong.
I think most of the ones that I looked at was 12.
Oh, was it? Okay. That's
Because
pretty
they're
normal.
following the state statute.
There was one that had 11, I don't remember which one
Okay.
it was.
But yeah, I agree with you, Nate, too, just about that if it's a concern within the, you know, fire department here, that it's been dry and then we have the authority to do that. It's nice to have some sort of measuring, or you go off of county, but
Drought monitor, you could use that.
sure,
It's updated every week in the summer.
just something
But would
that,
it also be, I mean, I guess you probably can't predict wind that far out, but, you know, wind would be a factor too. not just
Absolutely.
dryness,
Yeah.
so.
something to,
Are you wanting a more, so, you know, if we do it by city council resolution and conditions change quickly
Can we
and,
make it so it's by fire chief? Like, it's solely up to the fire chief? Because then he could call it even
Mhm.
days before without
Or
city
day of.
council, without city council approving it. I mean, I think this is a public safety matter, and that to me makes more sense than having the whole city council 2 weeks before, in some cases, have to make that
yeah, I
decision.
mean, it could be 2 weeks before and, you know,
yeah,
3 weeks ago, we were feeling pretty good about where we were moisture-wise.
right,
You know,
Right.
now, not so much.
Yeah.
Right.
And that, a lot can change in that time period.
So,
So yeah, that could be an option as well.
yeah, to me, that makes more sense, and like, he's gonna know, they're gonna know more in the moment, and it's gonna be them that are getting the potential calls. So I would feel more comfortable with them making that call.
The other thing with their membership being so broad and with how many different, farmers and whatnot
Yeah.
spread out through the county, they have a good snapshot of what it looks like.
Yeah,
Or
It is-
like your own committee, so that way you don't get all like the committee decided, you don't get all the
yeah,
phone
we could
calls.
do that like our board members.
Yeah.
Or command staff, or.
Yeah, something like that it's a group of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that, cause it'd probably be quicker that way, I suppose, than,
And we wouldn't have to have a special meeting
Right.
and, make sure we have a quorum and all that. I mean,
Mhm.
it would do away with some of the formalities required. I assume Brett would be okay with that, but I don't know.
Just
We'd have to check it and make sure that that's okay.
beauty is we have time.
Yes.
Time to get this all
Plenty of
flushed out.
time. Although, New Year's Day is just around the corner.
Anybody who wants to stand out and shoot fireworks off on New Year's Day, I applaud them. Usually I'm still
Even today
shoveling.
felt cold to
I know,
me.
sometimes that catches me by surprise. Oh, yeah.
and I feel like some of our members that are rural and they'd probably appreciate it, so they don't get people leaving town to go light on the township road and then leave their masks. Not everybody does that.
I will-
It does happen.
It does happen.
From our aspect on the PD side, we would appreciate it too, just for the fact that there's been years in the past where they have stepped across Highway 44 to light them fireworks.
Oh, yeah,
And there wasn't anything we could do about it.
yeah.
Or the gravel road just right out by the the football field,
Mhm.
littered the next morning.
I say it always is, it seems.
It would probably help clean some of that up, I would think.
Well, if they don't have to feel like they need to go
Yeah.
someplace,
Yeah, true.
they can clean up their own garbage in their own backyard.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least they're not throwing the hot fireworks back in the vehicle.
Well,
Never say never.
But we don't want the litter either, so.
Right.
So what do we think to do? Is there, fire department does not necessarily care to have this change. We need to report back to the council with something, and we can report back with your feedback and our discussion,
Yeah,
and see where it goes from there, or what does everybody prefer?
yeah, I'm willing to work with you on it. I see both sides of the story, or the plans. And
I'm just stuck in a kind of if it doesn't work, then we can fix it,
Yeah.
But if it does work, we alleviate quite a few headaches that, we have after the 4th of July.
And after the first year, we can review it again, and,
Everything is in fluid motion.
yeah.
I mean, if there's something I've learned about city ordinances, is
Parking
the first-
ordinances change often.
the first draft sounds really good until year 2.
I'm sure.
Yep. Hey, we should have thought about this.
And we have rewrote several of them based on that.
Yeah.
They're very fluid.
Yeah. I think that sounds good. We bring that to council and see if there's any concern or other things we didn't think of too, but makes sense to move
We'll
forward.
plan on that on,
10:15?
it might be the 10:28 agenda, but I'm just starting to put the 10:15 agenda together right now, so I want to make sure we,
Did other
one
things.
meeting could be 15 minutes, the other could be 3 hours, so trying to balance that out.
Yeah. And check with Brett.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah, sounds good.
thank you.
Thank you.
Off to that big easy chairs.
Going camping or anything?
No, my wife has informed me that my honey-do list has gotten longer.